Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is brought to you in part by Mays Sandwich Shop, serving delicious hometown favorites to the West Lawn community since 1947. You are listening to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show, bringing you the latest news and commentary on baseball.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Hockey.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Flyers are going to win the Stanley Cup. The Flyers win the Stanley Cup.
College football.
The Big Ten championship lies on a measurement.
Did he get it? No! He didn't get it! Penn stayed home!
They brought back the fun, they brought back the excitement, and now they've brought back a Big Ten championship. The Penn State Nittany Lions are Big Ten champions.
And the NFL.
He's in! Patriots win the Super Bowl! Brady has his fifth! What a comeback!
Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffoff.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 244 of the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. I'm one of your hosts, Joe Mays, and sitting next to me, my co-host, Justin Raffoff.
Yeah, it's good to be here. You know, we're kind of settling into this football show schedule for us, and I'm kind of a fan. I like it, but it is a little different, you know, from week to week. But plenty to talk about today, and I'm ready. This was a wonderful football weekend.
Yeah, you had a pretty good weekend from the start of things Friday night through very late Saturday night, and then this afternoon. Everything coming up peachy for you. A win Friday, a win Saturday, a win Sunday.
And never a doubt either.
Never. None of them. Not at all at any point.
Just don't bring up those, the countless, I'm going to bed, I can't do this to myself text I sent you last night.
Now,
I think I sent it like 8 times probably.
Yeah, well, we were pretty distraught watching Penn State, who dominated the game against Iowa in nearly every facet other than the scoreboard for a majority of the time. Not even the majority of the time.
The whole time.
Like, so bizarre.
Yeah.
But that's what happens when you go there.
I say so bizarre, but like, it's actually stereotypical and common for a night game at Iowa when you have a high-ranked team going in there. Like, they just play everybody tough at night there, which is kind of cool.
But also
not
terrifying.
When it's my team. It was a lot more cool when it was Michigan there last
year. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I liked that one.
Yeah,
last night,
I'll
not
tell you
so
what,
much.
though. I was probably even just as happy, if not happier, last night. So it all worked out.
I would definitely say happier for sure, although last year's definitely rates up
right.
there.
It was just, the possibilities last year started to make you wonder. But definitely in the moment happier this year. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and Friday night we got to see Wilson look like more of a standard Wilson team after starting 1-2 for the first time in nearly a quarter century.
We've spent time on our other show preaching the positives, right? We've been beating that drum trying to, I don't know. I feel like people were on board. It wasn't like we had to convince other people, but we're just making it clear kind of where we stood. And yeah, I think some of those things that we were talking about came to light on Friday night, and we saw them able to get back in the win column.
Yeah, and it was a very important one because they opened Lancaster Lebanon League Section 1 schedule. Last 7 games are league games, and they were riding a 64-game winning streak in the league dating back all the way to November 2007. The last time they lost was October 26th, 2007. So another month from now, if they can get that far, winning every game from here on out, they'll make it a full decade without losing a game in the Lancaster Lebanon League.
That's absurd.
They would, if there were lines in high school football, they'd be favored in the next 3 weeks. and then they have a big one on October 20th to the team, coincidentally, that last beat them in the Lancaster Lebanon League.
Yeah.
So, so Wilson gets in the win column, even their record to 2-2, and looked much better Friday night than they had at all at any point in the first 3 weeks of the season.
Yes.
We talked about Penn State. We didn't really mention Saquon Barkley, who's
the man.
Is amazing, and he had fellow collegiate players, former collegiate superstars, and current NFL players all dazzling and, starstruck over what he was able to do. He was essentially Penn State's entire offense for a large part of the game. A couple guys stepped up on the final drive, thankfully. Trace started to look more like himself. I think Saeed Blacknall, did he have the 4th down conversion?
He did, the 4th and 2 conversion.
And then Juwan Johnson, first collegiate touchdown.
And 3 catches on the drive. And Saquon on that drive, too. A couple of things that kind of fly under the radar. He was able to pick up that 1st down on 3rd and 8 and get out of bounds to save the timeout. But also...
Was that the leap?
No, that was earlier, yeah.
Okay, that
was
earlier.
But he was able to... He picked up the blitz on 4th.
Yes,
on
he did,
the last play, too. And, it wasn't a crazy blitz, but the guy was coming, and it... They said, think about this. Arguably, not necessarily, but arguably the best college football player in the country. They didn't even send him out on a route on the last play of the game.
Yeah.
So.
There are some questionable play calling and play on the field throughout the game.
Oh yeah.
But we talked about how tough it is to play at Kinnick.
And you know what?
At night.
Good teams find a way to win.
And they did.
That's exactly what they did.
Yep,
so
exactly what they did. So
them.
hats off to the Penn State football team for a job well done. And, now they get to come home, I believe, again and play Indiana.
Home against Indiana with the crazy uniforms this week.
Oh, yes, that's right. I think it'll be pretty cool to see that.
Yeah.
I enjoy that.
It's striped socks, white shoes, white socks with stripes. Not like
white
stirrup
pants
socks.
with a blue stripe. The helmet will have the numbers
on it. And
gray
the white
face mask.
The white around.
White striping on the arm sleeves and the neck, which is what we grew up with. So that'll be cool to see once again. It's been gone for
uniforms look pretty
10
cool.
years or so.
And somebody making a joke onto the black shoe tradition was saying that they're like, Saquon's going to look like a lightning bolt with white shoes on. But we'll have to wait and see. Indiana's one of those teams where if you aren't ready, next thing you know you're in a game. Ask Ohio State; they saw that they can pass the ball like crazy. I know they were kind of back and forth with some of their quarterbacks last week, and I don't know if injuries had a part to do with that. By last week, I mean yesterday. So we'll have to wait and see there, but hopefully they're up to the challenge. They're back at Penn State before having some tough games on the road. They're only home once in October, so.
Yeah, and that one is a big one with Michigan.
Yes, so.
So we talked about Friday and Saturday. We're here to talk about Sunday, but we actually have to go all the way back to Thursday and another wildly exciting game.
Yes.
One that ended with a score that apparently had never been a final in NFL history.
Which I couldn't believe just because that's crazy.
Well,
I know it's a weird score, but.
I didn't see the statistic pulled up by Elias, however you say it, the sports bureau that does all these crazy statistical things. I didn't see if it was in the history of the NFL or in the modern day NFL, because that shaves off, 40 years, I think, of statistics.
But at the same time, majority of the 40-point games are probably more recent.
True, yeah.
Yeah, but I agree. It does shave off a large amount if it's modern era.
Because I think the NFL started in the early 1920s, if I'm not mistaken,
like
late
that.
19-teens, maybe early 1920s.
Sure.
And the modern NFL essentially was in the 1960s. So, but anyways, so at least 50 plus years of records, if not close to 100 years of records, and the score of 41-39 was never a final until Thursday night, where the Rams went to San Francisco. Not a huge drive for them anymore, although it's, not close, but definitely better than when they were not in Los Angeles.
Yeah, same time zone now. So.
Right, yeah, same time zone, to make things a little bit easier. But 80 points total.
Yeah.
A little bit unexpected, especially because the 49ers expect to be one of the worst teams in the league. Not known for putting up a lot of points of late, but they mounted a furious comeback in the fourth quarter by scoring 19. But the Rams were able to hold on, and we mentioned last week or 2 weeks ago when we talked about the Rams dismantling of the Colts that Jared Goff started to look like a number one quarterback, and he did that again.
Yeah,
they looked very, very good.
The thing I came away with in this game, my take on this was, and I sent this to you in the text, was I don't know what to really expect from the Rams yet. I don't know what to expect from Jared Goff yet. But I care enough to watch the Rams now, and like they're interesting to watch again.
Right.
Whereas the last year, it was awful. It was hard to watch. So watching them this year so far has been a lot different and a lot more exciting. And wow, I don't hope they do too well. Like it is fun when they're not terrible.
Right.
And you could say that for pretty much any team that you don't hate, and I wouldn't count the Rams in that era. So,
right.
The Rams scored 12 seconds into the game. I turned the game on 12 seconds in, and they'd already scored a touchdown.
Yeah, and of course I'm playing Todd Gurley this week, so
ouchie.
All good timing on my end in fantasy to have him go off with 3 touchdowns. Here's the first one you're seeing on your screen.
This is another example. Like I love the uniforms, the color rush on this one. Like I like the Rams uniforms this year, like the white.
They're gonna look even better next year when they get all together with the white and navy. That'll look cool. The yellow, the Rams don't bother me. I'm not a big fan of the 49ers just because black is barely in their color scheme. Like it doesn't go with their helmets almost at all. It just
but what are they gonna go with?
For me?
They should go with like that goldish color, just all over.
Yeah, well, why not? I mean, you see the Panthers do it with blue, the Titans do it with the blue, the Chargers have done it before.
They could have done it with the red, but I don't know. I kind of like the black.
Whatever gimmick they want to throw out just to sell jerseys and whatnot. So yeah, 41-39, Rams get the win. They're able to move to 2-1, where the 49ers drop to 0-3, probably right where we thought that they would be. All right, so what else happened? Well, there was an early game today, and this one...
Oh, one of the teams knew.
Yeah, one of the teams was ready, and we shouldn't be shocked based on their history in London, at least of late. The Jaguars, who play quite well across the pond, they did the same thing today against the Ravens, winning 44-7. Wasn't even close. The Baltimore didn't get on the board till the fourth quarter, and Joe Flacco was benched.
Yeah, but it was 44-7, and to be honest, it wasn't that close. Oh my gosh!
Wow.
Joe Flacco was almost broken half backwards there.
So, friend of the show, Chad Henne over there, got to see some time today.
Yeah, I saw that.
And Penn State alum Paul Posluszny, a captain for the Jaguars once again, he was making his presence known.
The Jaguars are now 2-1 with 2 blowout wins.
2 big wins, and then 1 loss to the Titans, but
that's not a bad loss.
Expected the Titans to be good, especially as we'll talk about a little later, what they were able to do with the Seahawks today.
Right.
And their only losses to the Raiders also expected to be very good. So sometimes transitive property works, folks. Yeah. Not always, but it's looking pretty good right here.
What do you mean it doesn't always work?
Jalen Ramsey came out and said that they have the best defense in the NFL. I don't know if that's true, but it's nice to see them have confidence and swagger because Jacksonville has been a low man on the totem pole for a while now.
It would be hard to prove that based on, shutting down Baltimore's offense and Houston's offense.
But I thought Flacco was elite.
He was.
5 years ago.
Yeah. But, yeah. I don't know. I feel like this is just the Ravens ravening, right? Oh, my gosh.
Oh, jeez, yeah.
That was a nice play, but, there was double coverage there and kind of triple coverage if you count the other guy coming over the top. But,
yeah, just...
let's watch. 1, 2, I think there was another guy there.
So not a great day for the Ravens, so they dropped this one to Jacksonville 44-7.
Yeah, and to top it off, you have, a 5.5 hour flight home probably, something like that.
Rough. 2 teams looking for their...
Ravens had looked pretty good the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, well, that's why this was so surprising because
And
the Ravens were playing better than I
now
thought.
Now everyone's going to look to their next game. Like, was this a London thing? Because if they come out and they win their next game, then everyone will just write this game off as London. And by that time, we'll have another. Did the Jaguars win? Another? And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, the Jaguars are there. They're used to this because they do it every year. And the Ravens went over and people write it off. Or do they start to not play so well, and then it becomes a bigger issue?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next couple of weeks because I don't believe Jacksonville has a bye next week.
I think they offer it to them, but I think they usually don't use it now. I think starting last year, they asked to not have it the week after, to have it later in the season.
I guess it's all
for the sake of not having it week 4, And in reality, the flight from Jacksonville probably isn't all that different than like going to Seattle, where they were at. Weren't they out there like early last year? So
yeah, possibly.
Yeah. So moving on.
The Colts and Browns, both teams looking for their first wins after disappointing starts to the season. The Browns try to make it interesting.
I saw
they scored 14 in the fourth quarter, but not able to get it done.
My favorite tweet regarding this game was, "This is what happens when the Browns are a road favorite."
I was really surprised by that. I mean, I know they played well against the Steelers in Week 1. Still didn't win.
Right.
And I know the Colts looked terrible in Week 1, but Indianapolis woulda, coulda, shoulda won last week against the Cardinals.
Yeah, if they didn't look terrible last week too. They've looked awful. And they had a quarterback who has never thrown an NFL touchdown.
Really?
Until today. He threw his first 2 today. Yeah. They won last year with him at quarterback in New England without him throwing a touchdown.
Interesting. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah. I didn't know that till today.
I think
the game flipping into this game.
One of the interesting stats I saw on Saturday's early slate of college games before the Penn State game, actually these were noon games, because I watched 3/4 of NC State's upset of Florida State.
Okay.
And it was, which college program has the most starting quarterbacks currently? And obviously, if they're asking it during the NC State-Florida State game, it's going to be one of those two teams.
Florida State.
NC State.
Oh, well.
Jacoby Brissett, Russell.
Oh, see, I wouldn't have known Brissett. I didn't know where
Wilson,
he went. And Phillip Rivers.
Phillip Rivers. There's 4, actually.
Oh, hang on. I won't get it.
Well, I'm trying to remember it myself now, but
okay.
Yeah, it's 4.
So let's see.
Is it a not a very well known? Because now I feel like am I missing like an obvious one? Oh, Mike Glennon.
Oh yeah, you're right.
So, yeah. So in NC State, 4 NFL starting quarterbacks at the moment.
Wow.
Pretty impressive for only being 32 teams.
Yeah.
Not 4 quarterbacks on a roster. 4
yeah.
starters. Now, sure, some of them are from injury or whatnot, but still.
Hey.
So the Colts end up beating the Browns 31-28. Still don't really know what to make out of either team, and the Browns are bad. Sure.
Right.
Colts.
I think the concerning thing here is the Browns give up 31 points to the Colts.
Yeah.
And news came out, I think Andrew Luck is targeting week 6 to come back.
They're only halfway.
If
That's
they're
rough.
1-5 at the time, do you bring him back?
Well, yeah.
Do you tank and try and trade out of that
Sam
top
Darnold?
pick and get a bunch of stuff?
Although he hasn't looked great this year, I gotta say.
No.
Maybe he doesn't want to go to the Browns. That's why.
Yeah.
So let's talk about our teams. I won't have much to say about mine, but I'm sure you got plenty to say about yours. So Giants at Eagles. Philadelphia has dominated this series of late. They have played very well against New York at home. Things were looking very, very good early in the fourth quarter. Eagles were up 14-0. And then the Giants came alive, fought back. I believe actually had the lead 24-21 late in the game.
They had the lead 21-14.
Okay.
And 24-21, I believe.
And the Eagles decided that, hey, we're going to make some noise. We're going to drive down the field. We're going to let our rookie, undrafted, practice squad signee kicker attempt a tying field goal and a game-winning field goal.
It's even crazier because it's 21. Oh, I'm just trying to think about this. At one point, leading up to this, the Giants had a chance where they had to. So they end up having to punt, right? And this is the Eagles held. They have to punt, and it's a bad punt. And so the Eagles have one timeout, and you're like, oh, man, can they get, it's like 17 seconds or something like that. Well, first down doesn't really do much of anything, but then they get a decent pass to Alshon Jeffrey, and he was able to get enough, and then you're like, oh, do we do it? And I believe from what I heard was that the kicker, this rookie kicker who's been on the roster 2 weeks, because the kicker they started the season with is now on the IR. Maybe the IR to return, possibly. They don't know.
He's out for a while.
Right. But he's saying, give me a shot. And before the game, they had asked Doug Peterson, like, what's his range? And he said 55. He said 55, he's comfortable up to there. So this is 61, which 60 means you're kicking from the 50. Anything over that means you're kicking from your own territory. Now, it's going to be as time expires. So, like, it
doesn't matter.
There's nothing to lose. As long as it doesn't get blocked and returned for a touchdown,
right,
then you're good.
Which, ask the Bears how difficult that is to do.
Oh, so close. And then next thing you know, he boots it and he makes it. Oh, my gosh. And Philly's going nuts, and it was awesome. I've referred to tweets, a couple of them here. Our show favorite Skip Bayless sent one something like, the way they're acting, you'd think they're going to throw a parade for the Eagles tomorrow in Philadelphia, because just people were pumped and they were excited about this game. And somebody goes, yeah, well, more people would show up than they'll watch your show.
Ouch.
Which isn't necessarily a false statement.
No, it's
either.
not.
There's some that's rooted in the truth. But Odell Beckham in the fourth quarter
woke up.
Yeah, and and did Odell Beckham things, made ridiculous catches and got a penalty. That's what he does. And then this catch is ridiculous.
One hand
right.
over the shoulder.
I wanted to be like, oh, he bobbled it, and then I'm looking at the replay. I'm like, yeah, no, he didn't. That's a catch.
Unlike one of the other ones that we saw.
I'm not sure.
Where we thought it was a touchdown because to any normal person it would be a touchdown.
I thought you meant Odell Beckham still, and I'm like, I missed it. I got you.
About in general.
Yes.
NFL.
No, it was clearly not a touchdown.
By NFL rules, you're right.
I know.
You're right.
I know. But so we're going through this, and I love this is just maybe the pure Eagles fan of me. I like sometimes they're the national take, sometimes they're the local take, but when the Eagles beat the Giants, seeing the panic giant article kind of makes me feel better. But they wrote about how not just going 0-3, but going 0-3 this way, where they had the lead twice in the fourth quarter and scored 24 points in the fourth quarter on the road in a divisional game, and to lose on a 61-yard field goal. They're like, if this doesn't feel like as demoralizing as a loss as you can get in week 3, then what does? I would say, you have Beckham coming out healthy, you have Eli coming out healthy. Maybe they'd argue that's part of the problem. But, maybe that's a bigger issue for them. But you can see from some of the highlights, the Eagles got the running game going today. Thank goodness. Garrett Blount had a good game. Not a ton of yards, but got a touchdown. Had some good runs.
NFL touchdown.
Yeah, and he was doing really well. But yeah, oh my gosh.
Well, the Giants start 0-3. They lost 2 divisional games, both on the road, to Dallas in week 1. Now the Eagles in week 3. They lost to the Lions last week at home. No team that started the season 0-3 has made the playoffs since 1998. So one of my teams that I thought was going to be super good.
Yeah, I picked them too.
Not so much.
Whammy.
I thought for sure he missed it the way it was going.
Yeah.
And then it sneaks inside the uprights.
In my head, before it goes, when they put Odell Beckham on the back line, I was really hoping he would go up to try and swat it away and actually tip it through.
It over.
Oh my gosh! That would have been the only better way that ending could have happened, right?
Right.
And honestly, I'm glad the kid made the kick.
Oh, for sure.
But from a humor standpoint, it would have been funnier if he tipped it through.
Yeah.
But great win for the Eagles. You mentioned the Giants are 0-2. Now the Eagles are 0-2 in the division. Sorry.
Right.
The Eagles are 2-0 in the division,
right.
And only losses at Kansas City in a game
Not
where
looking like a bad loss.
in a game where, and this cracked me up. the national media was saying, like, man, maybe the Eagles are for real because they didn't get housed in Kansas City. And locally, the sky was falling. The Eagles are terrible. They don't run the ball enough. Like, Doug Peterson needs to go, like, all this stuff.
That's
I know,
a Philly sports
I know.
fan
But, like,
way of
it was
life right there.
But usually it's national media is not talking about it at all. Philly media is the sky is falling. This time was Philly media is like, Carson Wentz is better. Eagles are going to be good. And the local media is like, Carson Wentz is doing it all by himself. The team sucks and we're awful. Like that was basically the local stuff. So, they're 2-1. There's a long way to go, but they've won a road division game and a home division game now. That's getting off to the start you want.
Start,
yes.
Yeah. But speaking of sucky teams, let's switch gears now and go to my team, who had a miraculous
who lost to a team we thought was a lot worse.
Who had a miraculous victory last week in Los Angeles after having their Week 1 game postponed because of the hurricane issue down in Gulf of Mexico, Caribbean, Florida. Just
everywhere.
It's been a rough 5 weeks.
If there's been water, it's been bad.
It's been a rough 5 weeks. So Dolphins-Buccaneers game moved much later, I believe, to November, week 12 or 11 or 12, something like that. So Miami got the win last week. Everyone was feeling pretty good about it. They had to come back east now. I think they actually practiced in West Virginia during the week, then went to play in the Meadowlands against the Jets today. Jets were supposed to be, and leading up to this game, probably the worst team in the NFL.
Okay, so are Jets fans mad that they won this game, or are they happy because it's still early?
I think this just means that they can't go 0-16.
Right.
Like
so there's
guaranteed.
some relief.
Right. So some relief, but I still don't think there's a lot of hope. But maybe that says more about Miami than it does against
it would be a very
York.
Jets thing to go 2-14 and get the second pick in the draft.
True.
Wouldn't it?
True. So Miami was literally shut out until there was no time left in the game. They scored on the final play to not be embarrassed and have been shut out by the Jets. Now,
wouldn't have happened if James Franklin coached the Jets.
When we did the AFC East, we said the Jets would be one of the worst teams in the NFL. I still think that'll be true.
Yes.
And we did say that their defense was respectable.
Oh, yeah.
And at times, the only positive on the roster. Is 20 points from an offense great? No. And if you hold the team to 20 points, I still would expect a win.
In the NFL, absolutely.
You should be able to get 21 to 24. So you hold them to 20, hey, you think you should get a win. But the Miami offense was putrid. They were almost as bad as Penn State was for most of the game against Iowa. Jay Cutler looked awful. Back to Chicago era Jay Cutler, where he was throwing everything off his back foot. They couldn't get the running game going. They tried a fake punt that the Jets ended up intercepting, I believe. It was just awful, absolutely awful. And now I saw Miami play awful last year, and they went on a run. The schedule doesn't work out that I think that's possible. So this was a game that was marked as a must-win if they wanted to make the playoffs this year, and they couldn't do it.
Now it means you have to win one that we chalked up as a loss.
Right. Exactly.
Like not even a toss-up. You have to win
just to break even.
Right. So, again, it's hard to think, they'll bounce back when Jay Cutler's there. And I know that's a little unfair, but I think it's also a little fair. However, I personally am going to give the Dolphins a pass here on this one game. I know it's the terrible Jets. I know all that stuff, but the scenario is crazy. They were in LA for 2 weeks, right? They come home. I'm sure stuff is crazy at home. And then they have to go back on the road to New York to play. There's no excuse for how bad they looked, but I'm going to give them a pass this week to see what they look like next week. It could go downhill fast though for them. If there's a team you lose to the Jets by 2 touchdowns,
that's
and
awesome.
essentially 3 because you scored at the very end. That's not good.
The NFL.com has a link to how many big plays occurred in each game. Every game had at least 9. The Dolphins-Jets game had 5. So, it wasn't exactly an amazing one.
And there were 4 scoring plays in the Dolphins-Jets game.
Right.
There were 4 scoring plays and 1 other big play. And that's assuming they count the last play as I would figure scoring has to be a big play.
Actually, there were 5 scoring plays in the Jets-Dolphins game.
Oh yeah, sorry. I see 6 and I think 2 field goals. You're right.
So there were 2 field goals and 3 touchdowns. Because they missed the extra point. That's the best part. They missed the extra point. The only touchdown they scored, they missed the extra point. But hey, Devontae Parker, if you own him in fantasy and you started him, he got that touchdown for you. All right, a couple games we'll just touch on here. Maybe a bit of a surprise, and I'd like to talk about it a little bit more, but there's others that are a little bit more pressing. Buffalo beating Denver. Denver was at the peak of the mountain last week after beating up on Dallas really, really well. Of course, it was at home. They have to go to Buffalo. Not an easy place to play, not easy to travel there, and have to do that after coming off of that great victory against the Cowboys. And Denver just didn't have it. Well, Trevor Siemian finally looked beatable.
We've seen this a lot, though. I know some people are like, it's the Bills. Yeah, but, like, traveling east to Buffalo to play the early game, like, I was not that confident about the Broncos. Oh, and going back to last year, I know that's a really sketchy statistic when you do those kinds of things. The Bills have, like, the second best, like, pass defense. Like, Now, Marcel Darius was out today.
They lost Stephon Gilmore to the Patriots.
Right, who had a couple big plays today for them. But, yeah, so I don't know. It's just I don't think this is doom and gloom for the Broncos.
No, I don't think it is. But what does it say about Buffalo?
I think it says they're probably a little better than people were thinking.
Which has me even thinking lower about Miami.
Has you a little more worried.
You had to beat Buffalo twice.
The issue with the Broncos is, and we'll learn a little bit more about their division tonight, you have Oakland and Kansas City in there, and Oakland has to play yet tonight, but Kansas City has looked good.
Yeah, I'm glad I picked them as my division winner. Just like I'm glad I picked the Giants to go to the Super Bowl. All right, so another game that really surprised me. Saints took it to the Panthers today. Now, no, New Orleans was embarrassed last week by New England, but it's New England. I think we just chalk that up to that. Hey, that happens. Carolina at home. The offense has been awful, which makes me so happy having Cam Newton as my fantasy quarterback. Thankfully, the Panthers' only touchdown was scored by him on the ground, so hey, there's a positive. But the Panthers' defense couldn't stop New Orleans. Now, I know New Orleans generally has a significantly strong offense, but
but this is kind of one of those where they should at least squash some of the we got to let Breeze go, we got to get Peyton out of here, we got to start fresh. Yeah, that you're not going to hear as much of that this week.
A division in which I thought it was going to be Buccaneers Falcons, after what we saw with Tampa Bay today, is it just the Falcons?
We'll see.
Is it Falcons and everyone else?
It's still really tough. I know they were talking, the Buccaneers, like everyone had the flu this week, including two guys they left at home, like two starters they left at home. But I still think there's a gap between them and the Falcons. The Falcons week 1 at the Bears won, and that was just kind of a crazy game. They destroyed the Packers, and they beat a good team today,
which we'll get to in a second. But yeah, so NFC South, very, very interesting. New Orleans gets the win 34-13, and a definitive shocker here in Chicago. Pittsburgh goes there.
Yeah,
they looked bad against the Browns. Who did the Steelers beat last week? No, I can't think.
Did they beat the Bengals last week?
No, I don't think so.
No, I don't remember either.
Yeah, I'm going to have to pull that up because I do not remember.
The Vikings. They beat the Vikings last week.
26-9.
I'm really glad I got it. Oh, it was on the screen, but I remembered it before I saw it on the screen.
Yeah, you pulled that one out before it loaded.
Go me.
Yeah, so Case Keenum starting for Sam Bradford. It was in Pittsburgh. Steelers got the win there. But the Bears, they played tough in week 1, which we've already mentioned, against the Falcons.
And then did not play tough
in week 2 against the Bucs.
Right.
Who we just mentioned.
In the emotional home opener after the hurricane, so.
But Pittsburgh, 2 out of 3 weeks,
and
both on the road, I believe. Because they were at Cleveland in week 1, weren't they?
Yes.
Not the best. And there was a stat I saw that Big Ben and the offense, not great on the road.
No.
Which is something they're going to need to rectify.
Right.
I think they score a full 10 points less on the road than they do at home.
Yeah, and I think Le'Veon Bell may have 1 touchdown so far, maybe 2, which 2 isn't bad. But like 1 through 3 games isn't exactly what you would expect from him. Maybe it is what you would expect from a guy who didn't report till November 1st, though.
September 1st.
Yeah, sorry. I wish he didn't report till November 1st, but September 1st. But, yeah, I don't know. I still think the Steelers are going to be fine. And looking at the division, they've got time to get right. True. They've got plenty of time to get right.
Yeah.
Who are you taking in the division over them right now?
No one.
Exactly.
It's not time to panic. I'm not suggesting that. But it's another one of those things, though.
Right.
It makes you think about both teams.
Right.
The Bears were seeing some inconsistency, but that's okay, because they're playing better than people thought.
They're rebuilding.
No one expected anything from them this
they
year.
almost beat the Falcons. They had a drop pass in the end zone for a touchdown that would have beat the Falcons.
Didn't look good against Tampa Bay, but now they beat the Steelers in overtime.
Exactly.
So there's something building in Chicago. Can they get it done with this regime in time to save people's jobs and look forward to the next year or two? Who knows? But they're at least playing tough. They're not giving up. And they have that rookie quarterback sitting there waiting.
Right. Hey.
Now, if they keep winning in their competitive games, he's probably not going to get time, but that gives him a chance to learn.
Hey, there are 15 big plays in this game, too. So,
which is shocking.
3 times as many big plays in the Jets Dolphins.
Sure, why not? But, yeah, a little concerning from the Steelers not getting that offense going. Right. They got to figure out what to do on the road.
I'm telling you, we've seen this before. They're going to get right, come, middle of October.
Yeah.
And they're going to go on one of those streaks where they win 7 of 8 or 7 of 9 or something, and they'll be right up there and they'll be fine.
And you mentioned who is going to beat them. They might lose a division game. Right. Maybe Cincinnati or Baltimore will get them once, but overall,
right? Do you see them going any worse than 4-2 in the division? No way.
I don't think so.
No way. 4-2 is a stretch. Right now, it would be hard to say 4-2.
Yeah, 5-1. Just because I think it's tough to go 6-0 when you're playing rivals like that.
Exactly.
All right, so a very interesting game in Detroit.
Oh my gosh!
Which literally I thought had ended with a Lions win, and I walked back just 30 seconds later to see final Atlanta 30, Detroit 26, and I was scratching my head because I watched Golden Tate score a touchdown to put Detroit
that was called the touchdown.
32-30 with 8 seconds left or something like that.
8 seconds left, which is a big deal. That's a big detail in this story.
They'll kick the extra point. They'll kick the ball off. Probably kick it low, make them run it, whatever. That didn't happen because they called Golden Tate down at the half-yard line. His knee. Yeah, I know.
Was correct.
There is a video or an image floating around that shows his knee off the ground, but it came off the ground after he had already touched the ground.
Right.
So it was the right call of him being down at the half-inch line, and despite despite Red Zone having said that they also thought that was 4th down, that's why the game ended. It wasn't 4th down. The Lions didn't have any timeouts, which was the big to-do, which is the big issue. Because they reviewed the scoring play, and because they reviewed it, and the call was overturned, right?
Right. So every scoring play is reviewed in the NFL. So it's not like they stopped it to review. They stopped it because they called it a touchdown, which I think adds complexity to this.
Yes.
It's not like they were driving and this was in the middle of the drive and they called it. They stopped it because he scored a touchdown, what was called a touchdown. Now, they say they didn't, when you're reviewing, you see he's down literally just short of the goal line. So they spot it. However, as you mentioned, there were no timeouts, and NFL Rules Committee, which likes to make things more complicated than they need to be. And this is piling on when this has happened. It's never been an issue until right now, but makes things more complicated than they need to be. Competition Committee, they have it so that when you are under 2 minutes, I believe, there's a 10-second runoff if the clock would have been running. So there's a 10-second runoff, game over.
Which I don't get because it's the league essentially saying,
yeah, it's not like it's not like they called a timeout that they didn't have or asked for a review that they didn't. No, I don't get it. You have a game ending on a runoff, on a non-penalty, on a league decision.
Yeah, I just don't understand. I understand if there was a penalty,
right?
Maybe you can even understand it if the Lions instigated.
Oh, if there's a penalty, absolutely. 10-second runoff, no problem, no issue. You brought that on yourself.
Inside 2 minutes, though, it's always going to be done by the league, essentially. But
right, you're not allowed to challenge inside 2 minutes. That's a penalty if you do challenge inside 2 minutes.
I don't get why there would be a 10-second runoff. I just don't understand that.
To me, it should be. Like, I feel like that should be an untimed down or something.
Well, I think they should have just said, ball's at the half-yard line, the clock will start on the whistle, just like any other thing would, when there's a stoppage of play that isn't a timeout or stepped out of bounds.
Yeah, no, you're right. That would be the simplest. And how many times did this topic come up in our text conversations today? That would be the common sense thing to do.
But we all know that common sense isn't always the thing that wins out.
Yep, not all that common.
We're left with this, and the play is going to be coming up here shortly if you're watching along with us. And
by the way, Matt Prater, awesome fantasy kicker this year, by the way. So.
Oh, absolutely. But even though they weren't able to pull it off, even though it looked like they pulled it off, what about Detroit in the fourth quarter, man? Holy crap.
Yeah.
They're good.
And there's no shame in this loss. I know it's a home loss, but, like, this is the Falcons. The Falcons are good.
Right.
So, man, that looked like he was down to me.
Yeah,
on
so
that play.
That's what I was just thinking. I did not see that. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Woo. Hello. Who was that?
I don't know.
He got absolutely smoked.
Matthew Stafford.
I see. I was watching at this
with
point.
the wheels.
Yeah, I was.
So they were
absurd.
talking at this point. They're talking about how Matthew Stafford and
This is actually on the offense. Oh no, that one was on the defense.
Matthew Stafford and Matt Ryan are like best friends. They double dated on Valentine's Day with their wives.
Matthew Stafford and who?
Matt Ryan.
Oh really?
Yeah, because he's also friends with Clayton Kershaw. Matthew Stafford. They played like youth sports together. They graduated from the same high school. Here you go. Now this won't necessarily be a great angle to see it, but he is down there. Ball was short.
He is. If they show it from the side, you'll see. You won't see it on this angle either.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
What's a worse angle?
Yeah. Show me. Are they really not going to show the side view? Yeah, they're going to skip right past it, I guess, unless they show it after.
So just to be clear, they got the rule right.
It's just the little thing that's added onto it makes no sense whatsoever. Why would you run the clock there? I just don't like. So it would have almost been better for the Lions if they had called it not a touchdown, and they quick ran up to the line and spiked it for one more play.
It would have been better if he dropped the ball.
Yeah, that too.
Like, if in review you realize, like, he lost the ball in that roll, and in the crazy NFL catch rules, they're like, oh, well, he didn't complete the catch. It was incomplete. That would have been better.
So the Lions lose 30-26. Atlanta goes to 3-0 with the wins over Chicago, Green Bay at home, on the road at Detroit. So 2 road wins in the NFC, a nice home win against one of the better teams in the NFC. Falcons look pretty good. Detroit, though, nothing to sneeze at either.
Right.
Now, while they've had to come back in nearly all their games, they look like a strong team,
right.
One that should be able to contend with Green Bay.
I feel like that's another iconic touchdown that's going to stick with the Lions. Like, what kind of started the whole catch, non-catch stuff in the NFL
Calvin Johnson
was Megatron's catch where he was getting up, let go of the ball.
Essentially, yeah. He had scored the touchdown, went to the ground, celebrated, basically.
Right, yeah, and they said, he didn't hold the ball.
He didn't hold the ball, so it's not a touchdown. Okay. Yeah. But let's stay in the NFC North and talk about the Vikings, who obliterated the Buccaneers 34-17. Tampa Bay couldn't get anything going. There was a little bit of a heated exchange on the sideline between Mike Evans and Jameis Winston. A lot of big things expected from the Bucs this year in the NFC South.
And a bit of an overreaction, I feel like. They lost one game to be losing it on the sideline. You're 1-1 now, with the road loss to the Vikings. Now, I know Sam Bradford's not there, but the Vikings aren't a bad team.
I think the bigger problem is that you gave up 34 points to Case Keenum.
Yeah.
Sure,
agree.
The offense only put up 17, and we talk all the time. We want NFL teams scoring 21-24 at a minimum. But your defense gave up 34 to a backup quarterback.
Right.
And we saw him lose another starter, and Levante David got carted off. So that's a big loss.
Joe McCoy came out at one point.
He did, yeah.
Too, so.
And you talked about the flu and the issues there. So there's a lot of obviously extenuating circumstances for the Bucs.
But when you match that with the Falcons are looking really good, that's where it starts to get questionable.
A little dicey. Another game that came down to the wire and was very interesting to watch. Unfortunately, it came out on the side where no one wants this to happen.
Well, I'll be honest. I picked them in the survival league, so
So you wanted it to happen.
I would have taken joy.
For shame.
Hey, at least raise your hand if you've rooted for them in a Super Bowl. Yeah. For shame.
All right, touche. So the Texans were winning with 30 seconds to play in the game, and Tom Brady worked his magic and hit Brandon Cooks both for the touchdown to go ahead by 1 and then the 2-point conversion to make it a full possession field goal game, but there wasn't enough time left anyway. Texans, offensively looked better than they have of late. Deshaun Watson had his ups and downs. Tom Brady looked absolutely stellar.
This is arguably the best the Texans have played. I know
lost.
they're 1-2, right? They won. Yes, they won last week.
They got beat up by the Jaguars, but I believe they won
who they
last week.
They played on Thursday night.
Oh, they played the
They beat
Bengals,
Cincinnati, right? So they beat Cincinnati in week 2 on Thursday night. This is the best they've played, in my opinion. I know they shut out the Bengals, or
it was 13-9.
They gave up 3 field goals, but yeah, this is probably their best game. Now they did give up 5 passing touchdowns to Tom Brady, which is tough, but they'll be fine. I think Deshaun Watson, being able to put up 30-some points against New England. I know New England's defense isn't quite what we expected them to be quite yet.
Look at this 3-game set for them. Oh, man. They needed this one. They needed this win because it would have been a surprise win, because now they get to host Tennessee and Kansas City in back-to-back weeks before they get up 2 byes.
Yeah.
Of course, that'll be the Browns will win that game. Then I'll look like an idiot.
Right.
But, yeah, so Texans, man, I wanted them to compete in the AFC South. I think they still will, but, man, losing to Jacksonville in that fashion at the beginning and losing this one to New England when people going into it saying you're not going to win that game, to all but have that game sealed and then to lose it and then to know you have to play Tennessee and Kansas City in back-to-back weeks.
Right.
Not the best for the Texans going forward. Patriots, meanwhile, win 2 in a row and have put up a ton of points, and they're looking much better. If they had ended up losing this game, I can't even remember the last time they would have lost 2 straight home games. They don't always lose 2 games in a year, let alone 2 home games.
No.
And back-to-back.
To both the AFC opponents?
Yeah.
That never happens.
Yeah, that would have been something. All right, stay in the AFC South from the Texans to the Titans. Tennessee, like we mentioned earlier, lost in week 1, won in week 2. Now a big test with Seattle, a preseason favorite in the NFC, though having offensive issues of their own. The Titans able to hold on despite a Seahawks fourth quarter attempt at a comeback. Tennessee wins 33-27, and this game got a little chippy.
Just a bit. Oh my gosh. I thought Taylor Lewan was going to kill someone. I really did.
And it should have been Richard Sherman.
I have never seen, like, the flag that is over my shoulder in the video, if you're watching, the Wilson flag. That was the color of Tyler Lewan's face. He is just screaming and had run 30 yards to get in people's face. Now, I did have to laugh. After like that scuffle on the sideline, they showed another angle. Richard Sherman and Mariota were walking away. Like, they walked away back to the middle of the field. Not that they were, like, not, like, jawing with other people or whatever, but, like, they were out and the scuffle was still going on the sideline. I just found that amusing. But, yeah, like, I'll defend Richard Sherman a lot, because I feel like a lot of stuff he does isn't actually that big of a deal, but people make it a big deal. Like, people are told it's a big deal, and then they make it a big deal. I think you understand what I'm trying to say. But anyway, that being said, his shot on the side was a complete cheap shot. That was after he went
He was
berserk.
out by a couple steps, and this was after he had got called for 3 penalties on one play.
Right, he went just nuts on a play. I was kind of surprised he wasn't ejected. Not for the hit, for the other.
No, for earlier.
Right.
Earlier. Well, mostly because he made a huge deal out of it and took his helmet off and was in the ref's face.
Right.
Like, you just can't do that. Honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if he wasn't fined at least once, if not twice, for
he'll be fine.
Actions during the game. But his hit on Mariota was stupid.
Right. Now, like
it wasn't even close.
no,
Because sometimes you give him benefit of the doubt, like, is he going out of bounds? I don't know if he's going out of bounds.
I think
but
it was clearly
he was clearly going out and was already out when he hit him.
Yeah. And was being tackled by someone else. It wasn't one of those, like, I'm going to duck out at the last second kind of deals. No. Now, I will give him this. Like, for all the things Richard Sherman, he usually doesn't lose it in a game like that. Like, he just lost his mind today. Like, at least that's what it looked like from an outsider's perspective. Now, to be fair, like, I picked the Titans to win the game. As an NFC,
so did I.
As a fan of an NFC team, it's better for me that the Titans win the game. So like, I guess there's some, but like watching the game, like I said, I generally am one to be like, you know what, Richard Sherman, like, I mean, I don't always agree with what he's saying, but like, I feel like a lot of times it's made a bigger deal. People make a bigger deal out of it than it's really worth. But today watching, I'm just like, oh gosh, he probably should be ejected. Like, now I like Marcus Mariota too, so it's not like I'm but I felt like I was fairly neutral in this game, and I'm just like, how is he still in this game? And I thought Tyler Lewan was going to kill him, like, or someone, like John Runyon style. I still have in my head someone had cheap shotted one of the Eagles quarterbacks or whatever, and he just spears a guy. Like, here's a 6'7", 335-pound guy just diving horizontally across a pile and puts his helmet in somebody's kidney, like, and got flagged for that. But
is that it?
Yeah, back in the day.
And Mariota's coming off of an injury at the end of last year.
Right. Now,
and he's one of the more high-profile quarterbacks in the NFL, especially the young guys.
This is a big win for the Titans.
To
kind of go back to the game, 21 points in the third quarter is incredible against the Seahawks defense.
People thought Tennessee could have a breakout year this year after what they surprised everyone with last year, and they're doing it.
Yeah. But look at how they did it. They got Mariota, but they also have had a ton of picks, and they've turned them into quality guys. They don't necessarily have the flashy or the big name guys. Part of that's because it's Tennessee. Like, if they played other places, they'd probably, like, Rashard Matthews is putting up pretty good numbers.
He's a former Dolphin.
I know, but like, okay, but Miami's probably a bad example too. But like, if he played, this will drive you nuts. But if he played for the Jets and the Jets weren't awful, like, people would be making a huge deal out of the numbers he's putting up. Not that he's putting up record-breaking numbers, but like, he's a good wide receiver. But because he's in Tennessee, it's like, oh yeah, like, they have Delaney Walker, right? Who else do they have? Like, that's kind of what people do with their receivers.
Well, they have Corey Davis. Who's
injured. I agree. Like, we are on board. We like the Titans. We like what they have there. I think Mariota is developing really nicely, and this is a big win for them. This is a huge win because they already, they lost to the Raiders. No shame in that. Beat Jacksonville, which is a must-win for them, and then you beat the Seahawks. Like, that's a quality win, even though it's an early game on the East Coast, quasi-East Coast. It's that's a good win.
Yeah, for sure. And just let's check out their schedule here now. They go to Houston,
and then Miami,
and then they go to Miami before hosting the Colts and the Browns. So entering their bye, they realistically could be 6-1.
Yeah.
Because are any of those games should lose? No, I don't think so. At the beginning of the year, I would say this was hopefully a toss-up, but now I'm not so
sure. How far down on their list are you going to go till there is a should-lose? I would say at Pittsburgh, November 16th.
Yeah. Probably should lose. You would think that should be. If it was the other way around. If it was
at Tennessee, I would probably, right now, based on what I've seen from Pittsburgh and Tennessee, I would say they should win if it's at Tennessee.
Honestly,
but at Pittsburgh, at that in middle of November, there's no way by then, right now, after week 3, that I'm going to say Pittsburgh's not going to be favored in that game.
It won't happen, but based on their schedule, they could go 14-2.
Yes. Look what they end with: San Francisco, L.A., which that's not specific at all.
Team equals L.A. That's not helpful in any fashion. Rams. It's the Rams, apparently.
So that could be a tough one. That could be the toughest of the last 3, and then they have Jacksonville at home.
But then it's not in L.A., it's at home.
So they're at San Francisco, then they host the Rams, host the Jaguars to end.
They should be favored in every game except the Pittsburgh game.
Okay.
Don't you think?
Yeah, so here we go. are they going to get the 2 seed behind the Chiefs, and you end up with the Patriots and
Well, do you think
Oakland as the wild cards?
Oh man,
That's just
that would be great.
that's
That would
my
be great.
crazy. That's my hot take for Week 3. You know,
Could you imagine Kansas City 14-2, Tennessee 13-3, New England 13-3, but
and Oakland 13-3 or something like that, and your 2 wild cards have 13 wins.
your 2 division? What are you talking about? Like they're
So,
still
like-
division champs. They're just
Oh yeah,
playing in the wild
yeah,
card game.
yeah.
But your 3 and 4 would have 13
Yeah.
wins. That's
Yeah.
pretty crazy. Well, no, Oakland wouldn't. Oakland would have to be wild card because Kansas City won the division.
Right.
But New England
Right.
would still be
Right.
one of the top 3.
Can you imagine a 13-3 Oakland going to New England, like in
Well, I
the
mean,
wild
I-
card in the wild
I
card
don't-
round?
I mean,
Wild
unless
card
New
round.
England was the 4
Nope,
seed, that's
gonna
not
gonna
happening.
happen.
Well,
No.
what division are we not even picking?
We're not picking. We haven't
Oh,
picked the North.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh will go like 11-5. They'd probably be the 4 seed. So that means it could be Pittsburgh, Oakland in the first round.
That would be fun. Just
That
there's
has
some-
a lot of history there.
Yeah, I was gonna say yeah. So way off topic.
Yeah, definitely.
As now we've cursed the Titans and they'll lose their next 4.
Oh, right, exactly. So yeah, pressure's on Tennessee because you should be favored in basically all
you
the
heard it
games
here
the rest of
first.
the year, other than the
Tennessee's
Pittsburgh
going
game.
14-2.
14-2. Yep, right here. All right, so the Bengals were able to steal a defeat from the jaws of victory today, as their offense finally scored a touchdown, but they just couldn't do it. Green Bay had a miracle finish here. 10 points in the 4th, and they got a huge play in overtime and kicked the field goal to win it 27-24.
Yeah, that's. Whew.
They don't even give us highlights.
No.
There were 18 big plays, but no highlights.
Right. The Bengals, they did score a lot,
Yay.
like infinitely more than they've scored in their first 2 games combined. But they still lost. That's a good bounce back for the Packers. I think their fans are probably a little worried as they're
Beat
losing
Seattle,
to the Bengals.
lost Atlanta, now losing to the Bengals at home. This is at Lambeau.
Yep. Oh, by the way, I think the
Not so
warmest
frozen,
game ever
though.
played at Lambeau.
Not so frozen.
Yeah. But do they host the Thursday night game this week?
Green Bay?
Yeah. I think it was like in the 90s there today.
Is it going to be like 30 or something like that?
I think it's supposed to be low 50s on Thursday.
Yeah, Chicago.
Yeah.
Chicago, Green Bay.
So low 50s, I think, on Thursday.
Talk about
40 degree difference in 4 days.
We talked about Tennessee's schedules. Look at Green Bay's schedule, though. Chicago hasn't been a pushover on a short week.
Right.
Go to Dallas.
Tough.
Go to Minnesota.
Tough.
Host New Orleans.
They're
Good
going to
offense.
score.
So,
right.
Then you have a bye. Then you host Detroit.
Yeah.
Go to Chicago. Host Baltimore. That's probably arguably could be the easiest game
Yeah.
I've mentioned. Although I
Yeah.
have said Chicago twice, but we saw that they're not an easy out right now.
Right.
And
So you figure at least one of those Chicago ones will be tough. Like
Yeah.
one of them.
then they go to Pittsburgh. Is that
Thanksgiving Sunday.
wait? Yeah, you're right. It is Thanksgiving Sunday. Yep. That's the Sunday night game. Then they host Tampa, who I don't know. We'll see from them. Go to Cleveland. That's the next easiest. Go to Carolina, which could be one of the more easy ones, depending on how things shake out there. Before finishing hosting Minnesota and then going to Detroit.
Yeah.
That is the exact
luck with that.
opposite of Tennessee. That is the exact opposite of Tennessee. Green Bay is definitely going to earn it if they get it this
So
year.
not 14-2.
Not 14-2, no. Last game, Chiefs at Chargers.
This was a hideous game, by the way.
Yeah, this wasn't a great game. Chiefs jumped out to an early 14-0 lead. Philip Rivers had a ton of interceptions.
Doing his best to get the Chiefs out there.
Yep, but the Chiefs were only up by 7 until the 4th. They were able to get the security touchdown. Chargers didn't score at all in the second half, so maybe it wasn't that dire to get that one. But the Chargers probably could have, should have, would have beat the Dolphins last week. Didn't get it done. Couldn't hang with the Chiefs here. And
Chargers are in trouble.
They could have, should have, would have beat the Broncos in week 1, though.
Chargers
as well.
are having trouble getting half of the fans in their 30,000 seat stadium to be their fans.
Right.
I've heard there are rumors that the NFL is wavering on whether that's actually a good idea.
Yeah, I've heard that. That's
I
interesting.
kind of hope it doesn't work out, just because this is one of those situations I'm rooting for chaos.
Oh,
Like-
yeah. Chaos reigns. So let's check in on the late game.
Whoa.
Whoa, hello. That is an interesting one. Raiders in Washington coming east, losing 14-0 to the Redskins, who that's a surprising one, I gotta say. Let's see how they scored before we get out of here. Where are we going here? That's current drive. I don't need current drive. Cousins got 2 passing touchdowns.
One to Vernon Davis,
and the other's not listed, so that's good. Derek Carr's got 2 interceptions.
That'll do it. 3 of 8. He's putting up Joe Flacco numbers.
Yeah. So 18-yard touchdown.
Samaje Perine having a good game, it looks like.
I almost asked if you wanted to put him in.
Yeah.
13 carries for 38 yards.
I mean, so not great, 3 yards a carry, but
sure.
He's getting the touches.
Cousins is 15 of 16 for 145 yards. Oh, Chris Thompson caught a 22-yard pass, and that's been his only catch. There. So Washington up 14-0 on the Raiders, nearing halftime already.
Right, yeah. So
the Raiders not looking great. Lynch has 5 carries for 13 yards, only 3 receptions total.
Yeah. Wow.
Marquette King, the punter, doing most of the work for the Raiders so far. It's a tough one. That's an interesting one.
Yeah. Now, the Raiders can score in a hurry, but the fact that they spotted them 14 means you got to outscore them by 15 here the rest of the way. That's a tough deal for anybody. Well, it's not like Washington's a pushover. You know, they should have won week 1 against the Eagles. Trying to think. Last week they beat the Niners, right?
Is that what they did? I don't remember. I know they won.
Or did they beat the Rams? I don't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember now.
I think they went west. I think they went west and won a game. So, but anyway, so yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so I think that about wraps it up. Do you have anything to say? Any shout-outs or anything?
No.
I don't think I do either. To be honest, I can't think.
We're good.
We always forget, and it is what it is. That just happens.
Yeah, I blame you.
All right. Next episode, 245 in 2 weeks from tonight, which I believe would be October 8th. We'll be talking about what else? NFL Week 5. Make sure you check out jmnjrradio.com for more. Follow us on Twitter at jmnjr_radio, at Joe Mays and J-Raff, at jmflyer1454, and at Mr_Raffoff. I don't think there's any shout-outs. Girls water polo won Beast of the East. Excuse me, boys water polo won Beast of the East. Girls fell in the championship game. But a good showing for them, so congrats to them. Yeah. And I think that's it. So thanks for joining us. This wraps up the 244th episode of the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show.
We hope you tune in every Sunday for our Take on Sports. Until next time, I'm J-Raff.
And I'm Joe Mays. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. Tune in every Sunday for the latest sports discussions from Joe and Justin. Each episode is available live
on Facebook Live
and can be downloaded or streamed on iTunes and SoundCloud. You can interact with Joe and Justin on Facebook and Twitter, and stay up to date with the guys at joemaysandjraff.com. The Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is part of the JMNJR Radio Network. For more info, visit jmnjrradio.com.